Hi, this is Bonnie from Fairy Stamper, and today we're just going to do some simple fun playing with watercolor paper and some stamping. I'm spraying the watercolor paper so that it's kind of wet. I am going to be using 3 different colors of gray, and I'm going to be using the black Thistle from Fairy Hugs. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp those up and randomly put them on the background. And I did this because I want them to bleed. And you can see how that looks right there. And I'm going to keep going with some of these other colors. I'm not going to change out the color on my ink pad as I go. I'm just going to add to it. And this one is Frayed Burlap. And you can see how it mixes a little bit with that. And then I'm going to be using Pumice Stone. So those 3 colors to start. And I'm just going to keep, as this dries fairly quickly too, so I have to add water to it randomly as I go. That one's very light. And that's okay, because I'm going to be stamping on top of these to give it more definition too. And I'm just like I said, I'm just going to keep randomly doing that. The black Thistle comes in a small and a large. And so I will be using the small one as well. Yeah, it's going to need some more water already. Okay. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use a Frayed Burlap. See how I'm stamping that up too. It's just like I said, randomly putting it on the paper. I'm going to go ahead and start adding the small one. I'm going to use the Pumice Stone. Let's see if this one's going to show up for me. I might need to re-ink my Pumice Stone because I use it all the time. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. That one's going to have to be re-inked. Okay, we'll keep going with our other ones for right now. I'm going to do Weathered Wood again. And I wanted the subtle color in the background, and you'll see as we go why I wanted the subtle color. I've got enough water on there, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Frayed Burlap again. I think I'm going to try to pull out one more color, seeing as my Pumice Stone is very dry. So I'm going to do that in a minute and I'll be right back. Okay, so I found another pumice stone that I had because I had two because I use it so much. And I'm going to go ahead, I did stamp this one right there. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp some more with that. So anyway, I'm just trying to fill up this background a little bit. Like I said, I wanted it to be more subtle. And I'm going to come back in with a little bit more color than just this, but it's going to start out neutral. I think I need another one of my weathered wood in the center there. Okay, so then the next thing that I do is I let this dry up a little bit and then I come back in and add some more color. Okay, so I let that dry a little bit, only that I'm going to go ahead and get it a little bit more wet again because I want to add some of the color now to it. And I'm just going to spray that. What I did was I have a craft iron and I ironed it, and it gives me a little bit more texture when I do that too. But right now I'm going to be using broken china, and I'm still using the black thistles from Fairy Hugs. And I'm just going to, again, I'm randomly adding the thistles in the color. I'm going to use both the small and the large thistles. I can feel it needs a little bit more water. I don't want a perfect stamp. I want it to look a little bit blurred. That's just the style of what I want to go with for this. I saw a really cool wallpaper that used dandelions, and I've done that before, but I wanted to try the thistles. And I think that they make a really nice texture in background for a card or project. So I think I'm going to add one more small thistle, and then I'm going to go with another color. And this is just the preparing the background for the project. So the next color I want to use is mustard seed. And I am going to take off a little bit of clean off the stamps because I do not want a green at this time. So if I mix those two, I will end up with green. But I am going to add a little bit more water again. That's definitely going to give us some pop of color. Okay, I'm going to do the small one. Like I said, I'm just trying to get some different colors in there going. And I think that I might need some over here and we'll be good. I think that needs just a tad bit of water. Okay, So that's the look I'm going for, and I'm going to give it a good spritz because I do want it to blend in a little bit together. And then I'm going to let that dry. Okay, now that it's dry, I just want to add some more definition to the thistles, and this time I'm going to be using VersaFine Clear Morning Mist. It still is not going to be the bold up front because I'm going to still put something, stamp something on this. So I want to use the Morning Mist. I want it to be more defined, but I still want it to be subtle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did a couple, and then I'll go ahead and finish that off and do that and speed that up. I've already done one right here. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. Okay, so I'm using the small one right now. And like I said, it's more subtle, but it's showing the definition of the stamp now. I just want this to be like a background type paper. And you can see how that's more defined. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm really happy with how that ended up being stamped and all the different layers. The next thing I want to do is I just got some of this Brusho pigment powder, and it is gray, and I want to see, I'm going to go ahead and add some of that to the top and spray that down just to see if I can add a little bit more something different. So I put a hole at the very top like everybody else seems to do, so they don't get very much, because they always say there's so much pigment powder that you really don't need a lot. So that's all I'm going to be putting on, and then I'm going to start to spray with my water just to see the effect we can get. This has a little bit of different colors in it. It's got a bit of a pink, and I don't want to totally ruin everything I've already got on there, but I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to spray that up, and I'm going to pat it back. Just because I really don't want to totally ruin everything that I've already done. But I do want to give it a little bit more color. I know it's going to look like this is crazy, but I have a plan. I always find that when I use these pigment powders that they are quite strong. I guess it's probably because if you want to cover your entire background with it, that's what you would want. But I don't. I just want it to give a little bit of color and texture look. I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't want it solid white. I wanted it to look, you know how you typically would put snow or something like that on. I wanted that look. And I still want that look a little bit down here, but I don't think I'm going to do it in the center, so I'm just going to add just a little bit more down here. Not much, because I can see that it's plenty what I did up above, and I had to take some of it away. Okay, that should be good. It's kind of impressive of how much you can get with just that little bit. Okay, I'm going to let that run down a little bit. Okay, there, that really helped, giving me that look behind, you're going to probably think that looks ruined, but no, 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 I have a plan, I have a plan. And this will work wonderfully. Okay. I have to let that dry, and then we'll finish the rest of this. What I want to do, we're going to do some more stamping and making a card. That's our background, pretty much, other than a little bit of stamping we're going to add. Okay, so I went ahead and waited for that to dry. Actually, I have a craft iron, and I actually ironed it with a foil so that it didn't get on my iron or my ironing board cover. So I did cut it into 2 pieces, and I cut this one down, and I can't remember exactly what I cut it at. I cut it at 5 inches, 5¼ inches by about 5¼ inches. So I ended up with another piece. I was just going to show you how I cut it so that you can see that you can make, actually that big piece, I can make 2 cards with it. And I'm just showing you how I'm cutting off like some of this top piece. And then I'm going to be cutting off the bottom pieces as well. And just making 2, these will be the backgrounds of part of the card. I think this one needs a little bit more off the side. It really depends on the design that you want to and what you cut off and then how you add, you know, to it. But it actually makes a really pretty backdrop for a card. And so that's the next thing, is how I'm going to be setting these 2 up as a card. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be using one of the new sentiments from Fairy Hugs, and this one's called Fairy Poem. And what's kind of cool about this is you can read it, but it was made more or less for a background type stamp. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to be stamping this, and then I'm going to be embossing that with a gold, and it's going to be, again, part of the background. So this is all kind of like, in a way, a mixed media type card, but not. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that with Morning Mist. I just need something so that the embossing powder will adhere to it. And I don't care that it's not a full stamp if parts of it don't show up. So, and then this will be the background, like I said, for the main stamp that I will be putting on. So you can't even hardly see that even right now. But when I put, I'm hoping the embossing powder will pick up on that a little bit. And I'm going to put more of the stamping up above also. Now once I emboss this, I'm not going to probably be able to actually put the actual stamp on here. I'll have to, whatever stamp I use will probably have to be cut out. Okay, so that one actually showed up a little bit better on there, so I'm going to go ahead and put the embossing powder on this now, and I'll show you what that looks like finished. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of making this card after we've made our background. I wanted to show you what it did look like once I did emboss that with a gold embossing powder, heat emboss that. And then what I do is, like I always do when I show you, I usually take the acrylic from the stamps, and these are new stamps. This one right here is called Cirlig, C-I-R-L-I-G. It is brand new in the store at this time. And then the Flying Dragon, and I'm going to be putting them like that on this and making that into a card. And then as you can see, this is also our new castle. It's called Stone Castle. And that is going to be going, so it'll be more like a note card. This will be a card, this will be like a note card. So, like I said to you, I can stamp on top of embossing, but I thought in this case, I'm just went ahead and stamped Cirlig on a paper, and I heat embossed it with clear embossing powder, and I did the exact same thing for the Stone Castle. And I'm going to be coloring in the wings, and I'm going to be cutting them both out and putting them on top of the card. Now, the only one I am going to stamp on here will be the flying dragon. He will not be on top of any of the embossing powder, although I have stamped, like I said, on top of embossing powder before in my videos. I'm going to turn this, I'm using a small one, so I'm going to be turning this around, and I'm going to be stamping the top of that. I think that'll hold that. Have another piece to hold that down. Okay, so just going to go ahead and show you how I'm going to be putting that on. I'm going to be matching my thing up again like I always do, just to make sure I like that placement. Okay, and I'm going to be using Fairy Hugs Raven Black ink to stamp this little dragon. Okay. I need to get a little bit of that ink off there. I think I'm going to do it one more time just because it's on top of the distress ink and everything else, just to give it a good coat. Oops. All right, that looks fabulous. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my clear embossing powder to secure that on the card. Okay, so I'm just about finished with just making the card and adding the elements. I did cut out Cirlig, the dragon, and I put double-sided tape on the back of him. And then he is just going to be setting on here. And then that basic card part is going to be done. I am going to add probably a gold or a black around the background to frame that out. I also cut out I should have said I colored the wings on Cirlig. Let me put that a little bit closer. Oops. I did color the wings on Cirlig with Prismacolor pencils. Okay, and so then this is the other one that's smaller, and I also colored in that one as well, just the windows and the door, so it wasn't that hard. And this one was relatively easy to cut out because it was straight lines. So, and that's just going to go like there in the center. And then again, I'll frame that one out with a black or a gold. So then those cards will be finished, and I will put those finished at the beginning of this video. And all of the products that I used from the Fairy Hug store, or from the Fairy Stamper store, will be put in the description below. And oh yes, I just wanted to say thank you for stopping by, and please subscribe and like this video if you could. And I hope that you enjoyed that, and I'll have more for you in a couple of weeks. And the DT have something all week long, which is really exciting to see our team making some such really cool stuff. Thank you.